Hello everybody, my name is Ink. I'd like to welcome you all back to the channel. I know it's been a hot minute since I've recorded, or posted a video really, 6 months ago. But I figured now would finally be the time to make a second video, now that my personal life's kind of calmed down a little bit. Things just got a little bit busy, so I do apologize for the silence. But today I figured I would help some of my fellow struggling artists and help them some newer artists, I mean. Hi, have you come to join me in my video? Hello, sweetheart. That is my cat. Hi, Echo. She's watching outside. Anyway, so today we're going to be covering soul windows, or eyes, windows to the soul, and some other little tidbits of information that I usually find people struggle drawing. Now, so bear in mind that all of this is from my personal perspective and my art style. So you might struggle a little harder than I do, or you might find it a lot easier than I do. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their own skill level. But that is not exactly where our discussion will lead today. Sorry, I just tapped my phone. So, eyes are very funny little things. Now, I'm sure as a lot of you know, eyes are some of the finer details that really tell people about you. So, let me draw a little cross here so I can get my reference in. Now, eyes tell a lot about people. Tell them, baby. So let me just erase the overhang here. Now, the way I normally start by drawing eyes is I go right up next to the center cross here. So normally I place my nose about here, just under the line, or just under the across. And I start by drawing the arch going up. I draw a kind of abnormally large eyes, so do bear that in mind. Kind of a little bit of a cartoonized style, I suppose. So anyway, what I do is I draw up for regular eyes with no discernible race or ethnicity, and I have them kind of flare out like that, kind of similar to how one would draw ears for an animal, like they would flare up and out like that. That's kind of what you want to go for, but less of an extreme arch. Anyway. Now, what I do is I try and match those. If it's like a fully forward-facing, I say that 5 times fast, fully forward-facing drawing, what I do is I kind of try and match them up a little bit right here. And what I do is I go right here up under the line and then add a small curved arch, just passing the line here. And again, try and match those up best of your abilities. And then I try and curve those out a little farther, actually. And then the ends of the eyes over here will go up, and then they will meet at a slightly canted angle. It gives off a very neutral expression, I found, in, again, drawing from my personal experience, my book, my art style. It gives a very neutral look, and it's definitely one of the easier ways I've found to draw eyes. And of course, you can style the eyes however you want to. I'll just draw, just do a little swoopy-doop, bog standard eye. And gives off a very kind of neutral vibe, I suppose. So I will dub this as style 1. There we go. So this is one way I found how to draw eyes. All right, so that's one way. Now, a recent method I've found for drawing eyes is actually very similar, but it's more angular for, I suppose, people who have, my art style is normally very rounded, right? And I don't really find use for heavily angular characters unless it's very important to them. Like, I've drawn one character who's a computer virus, and I use the angular look to kind of sell that they're not really human, you know? Or taking something with like a naturally blocky art style like Minecraft and smoothing it out just a little bit so it's not straightly blocks, right? Anyway, going off on a tangent there, I'm sorry. I tend to do that a lot. So now, the second style I found for using eyes is very similar, but it is also distinctly different. So you want to, again, follow closely to the center, but this time you're not going to go out on a canted curve, right? You'll keep this sort of lower curved arch, but you won't have it kind of bow out near the top. So you'll have it go just a little shorter than the first style over here. Now this is how I draw myself personally. These are the style of eyes that I use personally when I draw myself as a caricature. So, what you do is, again, you just kind of curve out like that, and then you just stop just a little after that line here. And again, just trying to make a match. And then you go straight up like that, like a box. And then you curve up and you make a little pentagon. A very boxy pentagon. And then that's another way I found how to draw eyes. I found that this is a very good style of eyes when you want to do really mostly detailed eyes, but you want to have a character in glasses, let's say, rather than just making the glasses part of the eyes like I've seen a handful of artists do, which is it's just still a good style. It's still a good way to draw eyes. So let me put this as style 2. And I'll just draw a little pentagon here just to show what it's meant to look like. And then this one is kind of like beans, I guess. The typical bean eyes, I suppose. So I will draw a little beans. All right. So kind of deviating from not hyper detailed, but kind of deviating from these more detailed looks. One I found that is a very fun and easy way to draw eyes is, let me draw my little cross arch here. A little bigger than normal. So what I've found to do, it works very well if you have characters with glasses that tend to be over exaggerated. So I'll draw some simple square frames. And I found that starting like the beans, you kind of just draw up on the arch, but then you don't stop. So these are more like the actual beans. There we go. Big, simple, and can still be very expressive. Style 3. And then I'll just put true beans. So, handful of styles of eyes. I could go over millions of other eye variants. There's just with these 3 alone, you can go pretty much hog wild with how you want to draw your eyes. You can do anything out of these too. Especially with detailing the interior of the eyes, what I do sometimes is I have the eyes as irregular shapes. So I'll do like a cross in one eye, and then to lopside it, I'll do an X in the other one, or these ones kind of don't lend well to that, but they can very well be very expressive. These can also work with other varying details. So example, say you have a character in this style with a very neutral eye shape, but they're holding back some form of negative emotion. So what you could do is you angle the pupils, you make them smaller, and you angle them inwards. And then what I do to add stressors to the eye design is you add a little scratches around the outside of the eye. And then I normally, on the outside, I'll add this little stress squiggle here on both sides. So it kind of looks very similar to something along the lines of like crow's feet, someone who, glares and squints a lot. And then going back to this one even, I just thought of another one. So if you have, say, a robotic or mechanical character, you fully erase that, you can have their eyes or their pupils be the expressors if they can't emote with their face. So for example, if they're shocked, they can do a little exclamation box. And then for my robotic characters, I normally crosshatch on the inside of their pupils. Gives more of like a CRT or digital effect. Or if they're dizzy, you can add a little square spiral. And then just fill that out. See, like that. You can take these pretty much anywhere you want to. All right. And then that's pretty much what I have to say about drawing eyes. It's, again, coming with the process. And angles also change it. So say you have a character facing the left with a slightly downwards face. Or they're looking kind of off that way. So you'd follow the same principle, but the curves would be a little more exaggerated. Something like that. That looks a little on like the confused side, but I'm drawing this in a little bit of a hurry. And then of course you can always, mess with the eyelids or the eye shapes just a little bit to convey different emotions. You can, have this one in a kind of squint or glare to convey it's confusing. And then have them look off this way. Or you could have a robot character look off that way, who is looking up, like that. Maybe not that extreme, but, So then what you would do...
Odessa, Texas. There are currently no weather alerts.
Okay, thanks. God, that scared me. So what you would do is you just kind of follow the same principle as the beans, but you don't keep any of the curves. There we go, like that. And then these beans right here are also very simple. They kind of just... It's along the lines of those old school, like, notched eyes. So if they're facing... The way I do it normally is if they're facing one way, they'll go like this. Or if they're looking straight ahead or looking that way, then the meat of the eyes, I suppose. Well, I guess the notch would also work as to show direction. I've seen plenty of shows with these sort of eyes kind of do that. And then if they're looking that way, the notch goes that way. If they're looking this way, then the notch goes this way. I hope I'm not over-explaining any of this, but then again, over-explaining is something I'm very good at. So then you kind of just follow that sort of principle with the beans, or with these true beans here. So if they're looking this way, you follow the same principle, but inverted, I suppose. So the notch would be the outside of the bean, right? The inside would be the curve. So let me draw some examples here. we go. Something like that. So there's a handful of examples to draw eyes. Of course, like I said, you can always improve on this and, make it work in your style. Now, let's sort of section the top part of the page off, and then we can cover the grabby boys, hands. Which I will do just a quick little doodle. There we go. Got him. Now, hands, like I imagine a lot of people believe, hands are very, very tedious. So, I'll do my best to be expedient. So with a regular open palm like that, what I've found is the easiest to do is... My watch binged. Is you draw similar to this eye shape, but a little more canted to one side. So what I mean by that is, let me brace the page with my knuckle here so I can draw some straight lines, is you have this sort of shape, closer to an actual pentagon, and then you go up like that, down like that. So that would be the top of the hand, and then your thumb would come in right... I usually put it just a little higher than the base of the thumb, but you can always just draw the regular thumb. And then when you get to this line here, you just draw a little bow out, so that acts as like the meat of your thumb here. Now for the fingers, index finger will come up like this. And your index and middle finger will usually share a good portion of this little arch right here. And what I normally do is I draw the middle and ring finger together, and then just draw a line to separate them. And then I draw the pinky. I see we had a little overhang here. That's just me overcompensating because I don't always have the same line thickness in my hand. Or when I draw hands, I don't really know anyone who does. So then, that's a pretty rudimentary hand, right? Like that's pretty simple. Then you can add little details to it. You can add rings. You can add bandages to the palm, for example. See, along those lines. And then I found for less realistic hands. Like this is a very hyper stylized realistic hand. Like it still has the 4 fingers and the thumb, right? So what I found for more stylized old school cartoon hands, I found a very good idea for open palms is to draw a kind of oblong looking oval bit here. And then you kind of build the hand as you go. Similar to this one, but it's less structured, I suppose. And it's also a lot curvier. So if you want curves in your hands, this will be a good baseline. So let me add the thumb here. So you have your middle, your index finger. Christ, I'm having an aneurysm. You got your middle finger. Then you got your, I suppose, would kind of the pinky? Not too sure. But then you can just erase these guidelines for the egg, I suppose. And then boom. Just like that, you got a pretty bog standard old school 4-finger hand. And of course, you can take this in pretty much any way you want. For closed hands, I found a shorter, kind of potato-looking shape. I found starting at the back of the hand this time works better. And then, of course, you can always just, ball up your hand and look at it for reference. I found that kind of going out a little farther like that, because when you ball up your hand, the meat kind of goes outward, but it also bends. So you got to take that into consideration. So you can always use your own hand for reference, of course. So then you have your pinky finger comes up like that. Now, when I was getting into drawing, I always made the slight mistake of, you see how when you bend your fingers in like that to ball up a fist, they curve in like that? I always made the mistake of doing just that, but then adding to it, and then kind of going like a weird spiral thing. It's not a bad look. It's fine for beginners, but it looks, if you're trying to improve, I would try personally to get in the habit of breaking that. So then your pinky just kind of curls in like that. And then you can go like that. Doesn't look much different, but, I'm trying to just draw a hand here. So, and then you can, if it's a tight, like balled up fist, then you can kind of change the angle of the finger placement a little bit. Have it go a little shallower. And then you can cut it about there. And then, of course, whenever you ball up your hand, all your fingers, though they're different heights, they'll all kind of land in the same spot. So you don't need to worry about varying finger heights here unless you're at a very specific angle. Which is how you get the layering look of your knuckles here. Oh, I just realized I'm not looking at the page. And the thumb. Thumb is a bit tricky because it depends on how you ball up your fist. So if you go like that, like to swing a punch or to grab something, your thumb goes like that. But if it's like you're checking your nails, it will come out to the side like this, which is very strange. But hey, I wasn't the one who made hands. So what I've found to be a very good middle ground is, usually you want to stop about, oh, we're actually in a good spot. So usually about here looks fine. It kind of looks like a weird like remote or like stomach section on a lizard, but that's actually a good thing. So then you draw the meat of your thumb, and a lot of people I've seen make this mistake where they'll draw the top of the thumb going under the fingers. So as if like they're going like this to crack their thumb, which is fine, as long as you're not throwing swings with that. I'm not responsible for that. But anyway, dumb side jokes aside, what you do is you draw your thumb over your index and slightly over your ring finger, because it actually goes over about halfway to your ring finger here. Or your middle finger, I'm sorry. I'm dumb. And then you just draw your thumb. And then you don't need to draw the extra meat of it right here. You can kind of get the point across without overly detailing it, because then it's just like a muddle of scribbles and lines. And then that's no fun. And no one knows what you're drawing then if it's just a muddle of scribbles and lines. And then for this one, it's a very, very identical process. So what I've found is the best tactic is, again, just draw a ball. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then if it's angled this way, you can get away with just sort of winging it. I've come to the conclusion that that's what most of art and drawing is. So you draw the base of your thumb again, curl it up here, and then just exaggerate that curve in your thumb. When you ball it up like that, you have a little curve there, like right there. You just exaggerate that to where it's almost going back up. And then you just draw the meat of your thumb like that. And then you can kind of just draw the balled up fingers in representation of that. And what I do is occasionally I'll draw one of the fingers a little popped up like that, because sometimes when you ball up your hand, your index knuckle kind of pops up like that because it's resting on the meat of your thumb rather than the base here, if you were to go like that. So when you ball up your hand, it kind of pops out the top of your hand, and then you get your knuckle popping out. Ah. There we go, and then you can just do that. And then it's just a matter of filling in the blanks. There we go. Something like that. And of course, you can always just improve it. Like you could add a little stress mark here for the meat of the hand. You can also, or the meat of the thumb, you can also do that here too. And yeah, pretty much something along these lines. Again, like I said, you can always refine your art, always tune it to what you want it to look like. And remember, it's not going to be perfect the first time. The sooner you can get that into your mind and stop thinking that every sketch is going to be the perfect 100%, because there's no such thing as a perfect sketch. But there's always room to improve one. I find I'm still struggling to learn this. I'm sure a lot of learning artists are still struggling for this. And it's okay. It's okay to be struggling. And it's always okay to just take a break, put down the pen, and just go do something else and let your brain kind of recharge for that. Because art is a process. It's a very time-consuming process. It's a fun process, but it's time-consuming. So, a small side tangent aside, that is pretty much my demonstration on how to draw eyes and hands. Like I said, take this whichever way you want. You can improve it, you can change it, do whatever you want. These are just simple little guidelines I'd like to think would help, people who struggle with drawing eyes and hands and such. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I at least managed to teach somebody something. If not, I hope I managed to fill the silence or get a chuckle out of somebody with my with the ramblings of a madman. So anyway, I'm glad if anyone did stop by to watch. I'm glad you did, and I will see you guys on the next tutorial. See you around.